Hi everyone and welcome to another Heroes of the Grid Ranger video. Today I'll be continuing my S.P.D coverage with Bridge Carson, the S.P.D Green Ranger. Bridge has the standard combat deck layout of 3 shield cards, 4 2 shield cards, and 3 1 shield cards. Jumping right in is Bridge's character ability, which is Psychometry, or Psychometry. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but its ability says once per battle you may spend 1 energy to reduce the energy cost of the next card any ranger plays by 2. It's a fantastic ability. I definitely made use of this in every single battle that Bridge was involved in my game. For 1 energy, you're reducing, let's say, a power weapon, let's say Sky's Delta Max Sniper by 2, so now essentially between this character ability and now only having to pay 1, you're playing a power weapon for a cost of 2 as opposed to 3. Very, very good. And you'll see as we cover more Bridges cards that he is he's not somebody who produces energy for the team. He's somebody who reduces energy consumption for the team, which I think is actually a fun kind of spin on the whole energy ranger. But jumping right in, his first card is Setup Strike. It's a 0 cost, 2 dice attack with 2 shields for defense. Its ability says the next time any ranger plays a card during this battle, reduce this energy cost by 1. Play this card at the start of a battle. 2 dice attack for 0 cost is very average, but you're setting up for the next turn. I mean, as the name implies, it's a setup strike. To the next card another ranger plays. Let's say if they want to play a 1 energy a 1 energy cost card. Now they're playing it for free. Or again, if you combine this, play setup strike, then the next turn you use Bridges' character ability, his psychometry. You're now reducing the cost of a power weapon down to 0. To reducing this by 1, psychometry reduces it by 2. For 1 energy, you're playing a power weapon. That's super awesome. I used this card as much as I could during my game. I wasn't always able to do it, whenever I wanted, because this does use up an attack, and even though you can reduce the cost of the next card you play, sometimes you need to pay the cost to get rid of a more dangerous card. Then sometimes it's better to spend the extra energy to take care of a card that's going to either take your energy away or it's going to deal a lot of damage. So it takes some maneuvering to use as efficiently as possible, but it's still really great when you can. His next card is Got You Covered. It's a 0 cost maneuver card with 2 shields for defense. Its ability says gain 1 energy. Choose up to 2 cards from other ranger discard piles and place those cards on the bottom of their respective decks in any order. I do like the picture on this card because it doesn't actually show Bridge. The idea, I'm guessing, is that this orange head was about to attack Jack, and so Bridge, off the distance, takes care of him. I got you covered, and so Jack gives him the thumbs up. I think it's a kind of a funny picture. But anyway, moving on to the effect, talking about that, you always gain 1 energy when playing this card. Doesn't matter if you use the second part of it or not. So if you just want to play this card, you get a quick energy. It will use up your turn, but better than nothing if that's all you can do. And just keep in mind the wording of this card. It says choose up to 2 cards from other ranger discard piles. So let's say you choose 2 rangers. Each of them can only take 1 card from the discard pile and place it on the bottom of their deck. Each ranger does not get 2 cards. It's only up to 2 cards you can choose. So 1 ranger can take 2 cards from the bottom, from the discard pile, put them on the bottom of their deck, or you can have 2 rangers take 2 cards. 2 rangers take 1 card from their discard pile and place them. Kind of like the Unicorn Thunderzord, where it can, it spreads the card recovery, or you can, use it all for 1 ranger, depending on how you want to do it. The beauty of Got You Covered, though, is that there's no limit to there's no shield limit to what you can bring back. So if you have 1 ranger who has 2 3 shield cards in the bottom of his deck, you can put both of them on the bottom of their decks. That way they have something strong to stand up against bosses, monsters, or even just foot soldiers. So if you're using them 3 shields against foot soldiers, you're probably not losing more than 1 card. So it's really great. I only got to use this card once, I believe, just because since it doesn't deal damage, it's kind of hard to use effectively. Especially as you get later into the game, you want to be dealing as much damage as possible every turn. And since this card doesn't do that, it's one that you're probably going to want to play near the end of a battle. Once you've taken care of pretty much most of the enemies, if you have a free turn, just play this card to gain an energy so you can attack the next turn and then recover some cards so you don't have to use up an action token. It's still really good, don't get me wrong. It's just one you want to use near the end of a battle. His third combat card is Green Crash. It's a 0-cost reaction card with 1 shield for defense. Its ability says play this card when an effect would reduce a card's energy cost below 0. Gain 1 energy. Deal 1 damage to an enemy card of your choice. Notice the wording on the card, it says reduce a card's energy cost below 0. So if you reduce it to 0, you cannot use Green Crash, which is, I think, is very odd, but at the same time, given Bridge's ability to reduce energy very easily, it makes sense that it has to be below 0. So let's say that you play Setup Strike on the first turn, and then you play Shrewd Tactics. Since that card started off, automatically has a cost of 0, and Setup Strike reduced it to less than that, basically to -1, now you can play Green Crash to gain an energy and deal a damage to an enemy card of your choice. You can choose any enemy card, it doesn't matter if it's being guarded or not. It's a really good card, but it is one that's very situational because you're probably not going to be able to reduce, say, something like a power weapon to below 0. I mean, you can. There are a couple ways to do it with Bridge, but it's not necessarily worth it to reduce one cost to below 0 just to gain an energy and deal 1 damage. But if you can, I mean, this is a great bonus type card, I guess. I don't think it's one you'll use very often, but it's still nice when you're able to. It's probably I'd say, least favorite card in a Bridges deck, just because of how situational it is. But still, it's a really good card when you get to use it. His next card is Sweeping Shot. It's a 1-cost, 2-dice attack card with 3 shields for defense. Its ability says after you resolve this attack, deal 1 damage to a foot soldier card of your choice. So again, playing on S.P.D's whole foot soldier theme, the primary target of this card can be anything. It can be a monster, a boss, a nemesis, or a foot soldier if you want. And the initial target cannot be an enemy card that's being guarded. However, the effect of dealing 1 damage to a foot soldier, it can be a foot soldier that is being guarded because it's not part of the attack itself. It's a bonus effect. It's indirect damage, if you will. At first, when I started using Bridge, I was like, it's not super, super great, but as the game went on, I realized how powerful this card actually was because I was able to use, the primary attack to finish off maybe an enemy card or a boss card, monster card basically, and then deal additional damage to a foot soldier that would be coming later in the battle sequence. Or I could maybe even take out a foot soldier with the initial attack and then start dealing damage to another foot soldier. And as the further the game came along, the more I came to really enjoy this card. And yes, I mean, you probably noticed that, it's only 2 dice for 1 energy, but you're dealing a guaranteed 1 damage to a foot soldier. I think that's a pretty nifty payoff. Plus, you could always use Sweeping Strike to set up strike on the first turn, then play Sweeping Shot, so it doesn't cost anything. Or, if you use Bridge's ability to reduce it to below 0, so now you can play Green Crash to gain that energy back that you used for Bridge's Psychometry, and then deal a damage to an enemy card of your choice. So now you're dealing 2 guaranteed damage. I mean, they could be the same target or separate targets. Just remember, the one from Sweeping Shot has to be applied to a foot soldier card. That's another important thing to remember. The bonus damage has to be a foot soldier. It's still really, really good. His next card is Delta Max Fire. It's a 2-cost maneuver card with 1 shield for defense. Its ability says perform an attack with 3 dice that targets a foot soldier card of your choice. Another ranger may then perform an attack with 3 dice that targets a different foot soldier card. So it's exactly the same as Skies and Jack's Delta Max Fire. It's still really good. I think I used every one of the S.P.D's Delta Max Fires at some point in the battle, in the game that I played. Really, very good card. Again, you can't perform the second attack if you're the only ranger in the battle, because it says another ranger must perform it. That's the only caveat I want to point out every time I bring up this card. But yeah, still really good. Each attack, I should also mention, I don't think I mentioned the other ones, each attack can be, add dice, have a dice added to it, like with Tyrannosaurus, something like that, since they are attack cards. And again, you can't target cards that are being guarded, but still really good. Next is his power weapon, which is Delta Max Booster. It's a 3-cost, 3-dice attack with 3 shields for defense. Its ability says the next time any ranger plays a card during this battle, reduce its energy cost by 3. Now this is very, very good. You might say, it's only 3 dice, but I mean, 3 dice is still really good. The Power Axe, which I consider probably the best power weapon in the game, only rolls 3 dice. Jax only performs 3 dice attack. Delta Max Booster lets you essentially play 2 power weapons. The first, you pay 3 energy to play this card for 3 dice roll. I mean, hopefully you take out what you want, but if you don't, then the next turn, the next card is essentially free. Unless you're playing, a card that somehow costs more than 3, which is only a handful that I can think of, only two off the top of my head actually that I can think of, but this basically lets you play a free power weapon the next turn. And if you're able to reduce the cost with, let's say Bridge's ability, or setup strike, something like that, then this card becomes even more cost effective. You're playing only paying 2 or maybe even 1 energy, and then the next turn you playing another power weapon for free. So you can play Jack's Delta Blasters or Sky's Delta Max Sniper. It's a very good card. I did not use it actually in my game. I think I only drew it at the end, which is why I didn't do it. But I wish I had drawn it sooner so I could have made use of it. Still really, really good. Finally is Bridge's Zord, which is Delta Runner 3. Its ability says exhaust this card when any ranger plays a card. Reduce that card's energy cost by 2. If this effect reduces that card's energy cost to 0, gain 1 energy. This is basically a Zord version of Bridge's character ability. So when the ranger plays the card, reduce it by 2, and gain energy if it's reduced to 0. So unlike Green Crash, where you have to reduce the cost below 0, Delta Runner 3 gets it. You can gain energy as long as you reduce it to 0. And yeah, it's a really good card. I mean, like I said, it's a free version of Bridge's character ability, and plus the bonus if you reduce it to 0, you gain additional energy. So now you're gaining a net positive of 1 energy. I think this was the second card I got. No, this was the third Zord card I got. So I got to make decent use of it throughout my game, and it was really, really helpful, especially against the boss, because you want to use your higher cost cards against them. Bridge's combat deck, he has 2 copies of Sweeping Shot, 2 copies of Setup Strike, 2 copies of Got You Covered, 2 copies of Green Crash, 1 copy of Delta Max Fire, and 1 copy of Delta Max Booster. Bridge, like I said, yeah, he is primarily an energy reduction ranger, whereas some rangers like to produce energy for their team. He just reduces the cost, and as you've probably seen while going through the S.P.D ranger so far, all their abilities cost 1 energy in order to use. So they are a pretty high cost team, and Bridge really, really helps them. You'll keep them balanced, make sure you don't lose it, you don't spend all of your energy at once. And actually, now that I think about it, I think I only ran out of energy maybe once or twice in the game in my playthrough, and that's only because Bridge was able to reduce the cost so much throughout all of my battles. He's a really good ranger to have on your side. And let's see, as far as a secondary ability, no, I mean he has that secondary kind of foot soldier theme that all the S.P.D rangers have, with his Sweeping Shot and Delta Max Fire. Nothing too crazy. I mean, I say that Bridge is primarily energy reduction. He does have a couple cards, his Zord and his Green Crash, Got You Covered. They all produce energy too, so he's primarily an energy reduction ranger, but he's also an energy producing ranger too, just to a lesser degree. But yeah, that is Bridge Carson in a nutshell. Head on over to onceranger.com to check out the full card database, and affiliate links will be provided below. Thank you.